Ladies and gentlemen, coming away to you now message continue boarding for all economy
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the May edition of the Airshow podcast. It is springtime, finally. We've made it, and flying weather is starting to look good. First things first, we did miss the podcast for last month. Unfortunately, I got busy with a lot of other things, including our past programs, and did not get time to do the podcast. But certainly this month we are live again and ready to have some interesting chats. Shortly, I'm going to be joined by Anant Prasad, who is an airline pilot with Air Canada. And we're going to talk to him about his education in aviation, what spurred his interest in aviation, and what he's up to these days at Air Canada. We're going to talk about some upcoming events here at the Flight Center and also have some of our regular segments, such as the What's in Canadian Aviation news segment and a little bit about our drone programs and a few other things for this month. So look forward to all of that, and let's get started. So, what's new in the world of drones? Well, Transport Canada is still working on their beyond visual line of sight regulations. We do expect them, so they tell us, in April 2025. We'll wait and see on that. It could be interesting. So, we will be, of course, offering courses as required in the ground school component for beyond visual line of sight. And speaking of courses, we do have an RPAS course coming up here shortly. The course is going to take place on June 14th and 15th. That's a weekend for part one. And part two of that course will take place on June 21st and 22nd. So you can go to our website and register now for those courses. And if you do need a flight review, we're certainly available to do that, as well as our flight review prep course. And just a quick reminder to all you RC fixed wing guys, you are required under the regulations now to have a minimum of a basic certificate, and we will be launching an online program for that shortly. But if you're interested in coming in as a group, we can certainly do a class for you as well for your club or your organization. And in Humphrey's Pilot Shop news, we now carry a full line of ADS-B receivers, including the Stratus and the Sentry, and those are both available at the Pilot Shop and on our online store. We also managed to pick up a few honeycomb yokes. These ones are compatible with PC and Xbox. And we also carry a full line of Turtle Beach yokes and throttles, as well as their rudder pedals. So if you're looking at getting into flight simming, definitely drop by the store and we can get you set up with everything you need. As I said earlier, we are going to be joined today by Anand Prasad, who is a pilot at Air Canada, and we're going to talk to him about his career and interest in aviation, how that got started. And we have lots of interesting questions for Anant about how he got to where he is today. Good morning, Anant, and welcome to the Airshow podcast. So, I guess the first question I always ask people is, okay, aviation, nice. Glad you're a pilot. But what brought you to the decision to do that? What was did you always have an interest in aviation? Were you a plane spotter? Did you go to airports? Or did you just flash into your mind one day and say, hey, I think I want to be a pilot? It's not a normal career for people in terms of options out there, IT, and there's a lot of other big industries out there that are looking for people all the time as well. So what, Anand Prasad, brought you into the aviation industry?
Well, firstly, Richard, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm honored to be here and to participate, share my journey, my experience. Um, what drove me to aviation and to be a pilot, I would say, I'm originally from Trinidad, a small island in the Caribbean. When I was a young kid, my cousin and I both wanted to be pilots. It was just something about I guess, the wonderment and amazement of airplanes and what they could do and how did they stay up in the sky, and just the fascination behind all of that is what really sparked that for me at a young age. Um, it got enhanced through experiences with my dad. He would actually take me to the airport to plane spot
All right.
at Piarco International, which is an older airport. And they had a viewing gallery where you can sit and stand and watch the different airplanes. And, that really solidified it. And the third thing I would say that was a big influence of my decision, my parents were able to, and I was very fortunate enough to be able to travel a lot when I was younger, all throughout the Caribbean and Europe and Canada and the United States. So those experiences, coupled with my already burgeoning interest in aviation, is what drove me to be a pilot.
That's interesting. So for you, it was from a young age, right?
Yep.
You were sort of in that kind of mindset from day one and said, "Hey, I want to learn more about this." And eventually I guess you moved to Canada. How old were you when you moved to Canada?
Yeah, I migrated to Toronto in 1994. I was 12 years old.
Oh, okay.
And from there I had to get used to a lot of differences with living in a different
No
country and
doubt.
going to school different. There were a lot of differences. Aviation didn't really pick up for me, and I didn't really pursue it until much later on in my life.
So did you have any other career thoughts before that?
I did. My family owns and operates a print shop, and I figured I would get into the family business of
Right.
being a printer. And I went to university for that, to Ryerson University, well, formerly Ryerson, and I studied for 4 years. I got my Bachelor of Technology Management, and I did a minor in marketing. So the goal was, okay, get educated, come in, operate the family business. And when I started doing that, I realized that it wasn't my passion.
Right.
And that's a key concept for a lot of your listeners to be aware of with this particular career. I always like to say you really have to be passionate about it in order to want to pursue it and stick with it, and then eventually attain the goal of being an airline pilot.
Right.
It
You do
takes
have to
passion.
love it for sure. It's not an easy life when you get started, especially when you move into the airlines. I
Yes.
think a lot of people have this very dream state kind of imaginary vision of what it's like to be an airline pilot. And maybe those days do happen down the line a little bit, but when you're first starting, it's not easy. I've talked to other pilots from Jazz and Porter and some other airlines who have just got started. And though they love it, they still say it's not exactly what I expected, right? So, I mean, you have to kind
Yeah.
of deal with that. But if you do have, as you say, a passion for it, you're going to stick with it and make a full career of it. And
Yes.
then the good stuff comes a little later on, right? Those,
Correct.
yeah, I mean, you have to be patient. It's almost like a journeyman process, right? When you're going through the airlines.
It is much like flight training. It's a lot about the journey when you start from 0 hours doing your PPL all the way up until you finish your multi-engine IFR. And it is all about the journey. It's all about passion and patience. I think you hit it right on the head
Yeah,
there
you
with
don't
that.
get there all at once. That's for
No.
sure.
And
It's,
if you're anticipating that coming in, you're going to be disappointed, right? You
yeah.
need to have the passion and the patience.
Or if you think you're going to be making a lot of money and living in the Caribbean and then flying to work every couple of days. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. And that's why I say passion. When you first get started in aviation, unfortunately, it's not one of those high paying jobs. You don't do it for the money initially. The money will come,
Yes.
but initially you have to have the
Yeah.
perseverance.
Initially, you work your butt off. That's what you do,
Correct.
no
Because
doubt.
let's remember, at the end of the day, for us, it's us for pilots, it's following our passion, but for the airline, it's a business.
Absolutely.
And they have revenue paying customers and they want you to, get them from point A to B safely.
That's
So,
right. That's
yeah,
the job at the end of the day.
correct.
And they are hiring a lot of people. That's for sure. We'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
But it's a good time to be interested in getting into the industry. I think
Yeah.
we're on that upward cycle. And certainly, I read this morning that according to some reports, globally, they're going to need 600,000 pilots, 900,000 AMEs and support staff just to keep the industry running at
Yeah.
its current
Current
levels.
level, yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at numbers like that, yeah, I mean, definitely that's an option for a career.
Oh, for sure. The factors I would say that are going to be changing the landscape of the career are, of course, the more increasing technology with things like AI and, remote flying. But
I think we're good for a
see.
while with pilots. I think the people, I don't think that comfort level will be there for some time.
I
I mean,
agree.
even though the computer does fly the airplane for the most part right now, we all know that. I don't think the comfort level of the flying public will be there, that there's nobody in that cockpit except Hal the computer.
Correct.
I think you guys are going to be around for a while to come.
Yeah. And I agree.
Probably in our lifetime anyway.
I
Maybe
agree.
that will change.
Yeah.
Definitely the technology is amazing out there, but at the same time, you want somebody when, things don't go well to be in that cockpit who knows what they're doing
Correct.
and able to take over from
Correct.
Hal the computer who may have flipped a chip or something like that, right?
Exactly. And I completely agree.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So you started your training here at the Brampton Flight Center.
Yes.
I think you said you did the self-paced program over the organized programs. Was there a reason you went self-paced as opposed to like the IATPL program or the college program, I think, which is what was around in your day, or any of the other programs that we have?
Yeah. For my decision making at that point, which I actually did training here two different times. So the first time I started was part time in 2008, and I wasn't really making the progress that I wanted to make, so I had to end up going full time in 2011. And again, I chose to do self paced only because I had financial restrictions at that time.
Right.
The IATPL programs, I believe at Brampton are really well structured. They're really great for anybody out there that's listening who wants to actually pursue a career. It's a complete program. Again, we were talking about passion and perseverance. The program does require, the bar is set pretty high. It does require a lot of dedication and time, but it's a well structured program that I think will do an excellent job and have be a complete benefit to have on your resume to prepare you well to go on to the next stage after.
To the airline side of it, yeah.
Correct. Yeah. So that was my decision making on why I didn't particularly
Go that
pursue it
route.
is financial
Yeah.
restrictions. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people for that reason as well. I mean, the self paced is literally that. You're going at your own pace, both in terms of your learning as well as your finances, how
Correct.
they're holding up, right?
Correct. Yeah.
It for some people, hey, if you've got the money to do one of those programs and the time, yeah, great. But if not, then certainly self paced is an option.
Yeah.
And I guess the other thing is you actually instructed here for a while, did you not?
Yes. Yes. So prior to starting with the pilot shop, no, sorry, it was after that. The
Yeah, I
pilot
think it was
shop.
afterwards. Yeah.
That's right. The pilot shop was my foot into Brampton with getting to be here on a daily basis, getting to see the operation, getting to understand how a flight training unit works, which was pivotal to my knowledge going into being a flight instructor. I started off being a flight instructor in 2015.
Right.
And it was a great experience. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it is a very good way to build the PIC required hours in order for you to obtain your IATBL if you are not pursuing the college program. flight instructing is the great way to do it. And it also gives you experience. You learn the physiological, psychological aspects behind being a pilot, which will be good knowledge for when you do move on to the airlines. And as my flight instructor used to say, an airplane from a physics standpoint, whether it's a 172 or an A380, they all behave in the same way.
This is
So
so
when
true.
you're a flight instructor and you understand theory of flight, that because you're putting it into practice when you instruct, when you get to the airlines and let's say you go from a turboprop to a jet aircraft and you need to understand energy management for top of planning descent, that stuff is invaluable.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, instructing is definitely a route that a lot of people go as well. Build your hours, gain experience. Again, I know some airlines, again, are kind of looking for people who have been instructors. Others, not so much. But again, that's very airline specific. And I find these days it may be just a short period of time that they're looking for A as opposed to B. It's the bottom line is they're looking for people. And if you
Correct.
don't have success at one side, I tell people apply to a different airline,
Yep.
right? Because they may have a whole different
Criteria. Yeah.
criteria for bringing you in,
Oh,
right?
for sure, for sure. Having an instructing background is great. However, if you're not able to do that and you want to go up north or somewhere else and gain other very valuable experience as well, the airlines favor both. It just
True.
depends, like you just said, it just depends on which airline at what time.
Yeah.
And I would certainly encourage your listeners to keep all of their options open when applying to
Oh,
airlines.
absolutely. Do you find people are still going up north?
Not so much as they were.
Not as much as they used to. Yeah. It used to be
Yeah,
almost a prerequisite
yeah,
that,
and
yeah, you go up and suffer up there in minus 50-degree weather for a while and then
correct,
come back. Yeah.
correct. The reason why that's been a shift over the last 10 years, I would say, and increasingly over the last five, is because of and I dare use the words pilot shortage
Yeah. The
that
high
we're
demand.
having, right? And if we look systematically at where the pilot shortage stemmed from, it's actually a larger problem. It cannot be looked at with a microscope. It needs to be a greater picture overview.
Sure.
And quite essentially, we did not have enough people in the pipeline in the flight training units because the airlines did not have, shall we say, attractive things to entice people from wanting to be an IT specialist or something in technology versus being a pilot.
Right.
So that's why the pipeline wasn't filled, which is then, 30 years later we end up in a pilot
Yeah.
shortage, and now they're just trying to rush to push everybody through. So that's why people aren't having to go up north. Airlines now are hiring with
Pretty much direct. Yeah. I know
yeah,
we've lost in one shot within a month or two, like 8 instructors were hired.
yeah,
Then we hired another 8, and those were gone within another 2 months.
yeah.
It's just, it seems, certainly from the perspective of those who have been here for many years, that the turnover here at the flight center for instructors is really high.
And let's remember that's just like aviation, just like everything else, it's cyclical. So that's happening right now.
Yeah.
So now is the time, as we just
To get
discussed,
in,
to get in and
absolutely,
finish
for
up your stuff.
sure.
Yep.
So you did your training here, you finished up your training, you did your instructing here for a while, built some hours, obviously, and tried to fulfill the requirements for an airline. You applied, I think you had told me before we started the show here, to Georgian first,
Yes,
and you did get hired at Georgian.
I did.
How did you find that experience? And now, I guess some people may not know, but Georgian kind of rolled into Jazz. They were bought out, kind of thing,
Yeah.
by Jazz, which is again a subsidiary of Air Canada.
Yes.
And there are other subsidiaries as well. So, how did you find that first experience for the first time? Tell us what you were flying and how that went.
So Air Georgian was a great experience for me. I wasn't there for too long, but it was certainly a learning curve from going from a 172 to a Beech 1900. That's the aircraft. So
That was the D model, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Not the cargo one, but the passenger
Yeah.
one. We had 18 passengers, no flight attendant. So the first
So
officer,
you were the flight attendant,
yeah,
right?
I was the one that would have to open the door, do the
Greet the
safety
people.
briefing, yeah, and do some other odds and ends. No, I didn't load baggage like much of my other colleagues did when they went up north. They'd
Right.
have to load baggage. We didn't do that, but we did everything else besides fueling and loading baggage. So, including some grooming. So
No doubt.
it was definitely a learning experience, and I embraced it because again, my view, and I think again for your listeners, this is the overall view with aviation. You have to humble yourself. You have to be able to step outside of your box. You have to be able to do whatever it takes if you really want to pursue this career, of course, all within the realms of safety and things like that. So it was a steep learning curve. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Learning the Beech 1900 was an amazing experience. I got to fly it out of Pearson, which was pretty cool because we didn't have autopilot.
Oh no.
So we would be turning, they clear us for approaches inside the FAF and stuff like that. And it was just amazing to hand fly an airplane into, Canada's largest international airport.
Oh,
Right.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I also got some good winter operations training when I was relocated to Calgary to operate the Beech 1900 out of
Oh,
Calgary Airport
okay.
as well.
I didn't know you had been relocated to Calgary.
Yeah, we did. We did Cranbrook, Medicine Hat, and Lethbridge. At the time, those were the only three locations.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah,
So then, obviously, at some point, uh, George enrolled into jazz. So
yeah.
you were, what was it an automatic hiring when you went into jazz?
Yeah, from the beach, I went over to the RJ, and that was my first jet experience, which again was another learning curve
Right.
because turboprops and jets fly very
Oh,
differently.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
as we were talking earlier, energy management for a jet is something completely different. It's way easier to fall behind an aircraft. So when I finished the RJ, within 6 months or so is when Jazz decided to absorb the pilots from Air Georgian into their system. So fortunately, I went from an RJ at Georgian to an RJ at Jazz. And I was able to actually fly not only the 200 but the 900 NG series, which is a 75 seater and much
Right.
larger and
Yeah.
had slats and stuff like that. But the 200 doesn't have that. So
No.
that again, learning curve, and it was all great as you can see from my progression from the 172 to the Beech to the
Yeah.
RJ.
Obviously, yeah, you're growing in the your knowledge, but also in the type and size of the aircraft.
Correct. Correct.
So after that, you spent how long as a jazz pilot?
I was there for, I think it's about 2 years. 2020 happened, as
Right.
we all
Yeah.
know. I was furloughed for about 15 months. And I used that opportunity to do other things. I had my first and only son at that time, and I also pursued my real estate license. So
Right. Just as
it
a backup kind of thing during the COVID shutdown of the world.
correct, because you never know what's going to happen,
Oh,
right?
yeah, for sure.
And I would encourage your listeners, just my 2 cents, encourage your listeners to, have something as a backup to aviation, just as a plan B.
Have a plan B always. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, in aviation, you should always have a plan B anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
So certainly in life, that's a good strategy
Yeah,
for sure.
I started jazz November 2019, and I just started with Air Canada last year, September.
So now you're in the big leagues. You're in Air
Yes.
Canada with the big boys.
Yeah.
What are you flying?
I'm on the 787 Dreamliner.
You're on the Dreamliner. I know students here would kill to be sitting there with you today. It seems to be the preferred aircraft of all the students here.
It's
I've
amazing.
talked to a lot of them, and they all go 787, 787.
Oh, really?
I said, "Come on, what's wrong with Airbus? I mean, really, you know?" But yeah, I mean, it's an amazing aircraft. It's a beautiful airplane
It
for
is.
sure.
Yeah.
So you're right seat?
I'm actually what's referred to as a relief pilot.
Oh, okay.
So the three main positions on the aircraft are captain, first officer, relief pilot.
Right.
The relief pilot position is used as a crew support system when the first officer and the captain are operating on long haul flights. And long haul flights could be anything over 7, 8, 9, 10 hours and in exceedance of 10 hours.
Right.
Yeah. So
So
that's
you're
my
doing international?
I am. I've flown to Germany a lot, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Santiago, Chile.
Really?
I haven't
No.
done Asia as yet, and it's something I'm very much looking forward
Oh, I
to.
bet, yeah.
But for now, they've kept me on the western side of
You're
the
on the
world.
Western, yeah.
Yeah,
No, I mean it's an amazing career. I mean, the dream of, as I said, many of our students is to sit in that very same aircraft, and
yeah,
it's a magnificent aircraft from the inside. The technology is stunning.
it is. It's a,
But at the end of the day, somebody still needs to fly that airplane.
that's
So
right.
did it scare the crap out of you the first time you sat there and you were actually in control of the aircraft?
Yeah, it's a bit intimidating, even from a simulator standpoint. It's a bit
Yeah, because you do
intimidating.
some pretty extensive simulation training before they throw you in there and say, "Hey, here you go on."
Yeah, that's right. Sim is very intense, but it can also be relaxing, as they like to say, relax and enjoy the emergencies in the sim,
Right? Yeah,
right?
true.
A candidate can be successful in the sim by being prepared and also being mentally focused. Those two things, you'll be fine in the sim. It was a little bit nerve wracking for me going from the RJ to now a wide body. Lots of thrust,
Very different airplane.
a very different airplane, lots of thrust, but lots of automation. And those things, while comforting, also presents challenges because now you have to learn and understand, okay,
Yeah,
when I do this, this is what the airplane is going to do.
you really have to understand the systems.
System knowledge is integral. Yes, the airplane, just like an Airbus, will tell you what's wrong, but sometimes it's not always just on that surface level. It's deeper. The iceberg's
That's
deeper,
right.
right?
Yeah,
So yeah,
absolutely.
understanding your aircraft is vital.
So the process to go from Jazz to Air Canada, flying 787s,
Mhm.
how does that usually happen? I mean, is it just okay, you've been flying, RJ 900 for 2 years or whatever,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden Air Canada says, "Hey, we're going to grab you and move you over to the Air Canada side,"
Mhm.
and is that how it works, or?
So Air Canada has a flow through agreement with Jazz, and what that means is that we are guaranteed at least an interview, not the job, but an interview.
Right.
And what you basically do is they open up a portal, a website where you can submit your resume, and then all random, they will choose to interview you. They are on pace to hire well over 400 pilots this year.
Really?
Yeah, they've been hiring quite a lot,
And
and
that's on the Air
it's
Canada side,
that's on the
right?
Academy
Yeah.
side. Yeah, but again, they need it from Jazz, right? It's
Yeah.
all trickle down
So
effect,
they're going to
right?
take pilots from Jazz, so that's going to open up potential positions for students coming into the Jazz side of it as well, right?
Correct. And for your listeners, it's as we keep saying, now is the time because the more flow through that happens, the flight schools are going to need students to then go to the regionals to then go to the legacy mainline carriers, right? That transition happened over the period of maybe 6 or 8 months for me.
Oh, okay.
I interviewed once in December of 2022, and then again in May of 23, and by June I had the job. I was starting in September of 23. How that works is they look at your resume, and because I had flight instructing time and because I had flown a jet before,
Right.
I was now considered a qualified candidate for the wide body position.
Oh, okay.
If you come from another airline in which you've only flown turboprop, sometimes they don't let you go direct entry first officer, or they may
Right.
not put you on the wide body simply for lack of experience. Because again, a jet and a turboprop,
It's a different beast.
two different worlds. Yes, that's right. So yeah, that that all helped. And I believe all my experiences, including instructing at Brampton and learning and growing throughout my career, they all helped me to be qualified to be an RP on the 7-8. And if there was an FO position available, I would have taken that, but there unfortunately wasn't any.
Yeah,
But that's
for
my
sure.
goal, is to be an FO on
To
the
be an
aircraft.
FO for sure,
Yes.
definitely.
Yes.
So we talked a little bit about you have a family, you have a young son.
Yes.
You got married since you days when we were working
That's
together,
right. Yeah.
and had a family. So one of the interesting questions I thought would be for those who are in kind of your situation or may become in your situation with a family and whatnot. How do you juggle that? I mean, do you find it difficult? I mean, I know you guys travel a lot. Your hours can be very fluctuant, especially in the early days when you're with companies like Jazz. I know other Jazz pilots, and they're just like, I know one today who is gone for the next 3 days, right? Fortunately, he's not married or have a family yet.
Yeah.
But if you do, how do you manage that?
I would say the key element in that is, number one, having a very supportive partner. Number two is your outlook on how you want to reciprocate that supportive partner. So it starts with delegation of a house is a business. A house is it needs to be run, right? Things that need to get done, dishes, garbage, all that stuff.
Usual suspects, yeah.
Correct. If you are able to have a supportive spouse and you yourself come with a positive attitude towards it, and you say, okay, when I'm off, I'm going to do these things. When I'm away, you can do these things. And you help balance and work with each other, it becomes less stressful to actually have a family and do these things. I only have one kid, so it's not as bad versus two or three.
True.
Right. But I think really having the understanding and having that supportive partner is how my wife and I managed to do it.
Yeah, I think that would be key to everything, really, is having that supportive partner who understands
Yep.
that this is the life that you've both really chosen at the end of the day, because obviously she would have come to some agreement with that.
Correct.
On that point,
Correct.
at some point during the conversation, as to, by the way, dear, I'm going to be away for the next week.
Yeah.
So that's great that you have that support.
Yeah.
And I want to thank you for coming in today. It's been a
my
very insightful interview, probably the best one we've done yet,
Thank you so
in
much,
terms
Richard.
of getting knowledge out to the students out there and giving them a real insight into what it's like and the whole process and the various options that are available.
Yeah.
I mean, we're fortunate here. We now have a program with Sunwing, a cadet program.
That's amazing.
So the top students in their class get an interview with Sunwing. We have the Porter Pathways program and some other connections as well out there to some private operations. And so there are all kinds of opportunities. It's a really fantastic career. And certainly the need for pilots is there. We are actually having a really great event coming up for women in aviation in May 26th, I believe. And it's to try to get more female pilots, because we still overwhelmingly. Have you ever worked with a female pilot?
You know what I will say, at Air Canada, I've worked with more female pilots than any other time in my career.
Really, that's great.
Yeah, I just flew with a wonderful first officer and another first officer as well, and actually a third one who was at Georgian with me. I haven't flown with a female captain as yet, but they are out there, as you can imagine. But the females that I've interacted with are not just limited to flight attendants, and I think that's something that people outside of aviation need to become more familiar with, is that in the flight deck there's a growing female presence, and they are absolutely amazing. They perform amazingly, and I think they're those females that are in that role right now are excellent role models for the young girls out there. And the May 26th event would be a great
Yeah, for sure.
tool. Yeah,
Some
great
you know
exposure.
some of our top students actually in the IATPL program have been female students, and they're
There you go.
the top of the list.
There you go.
Not to slag on the guys, because the guys are doing well too.
Yeah.
But
They could hold their own.
definitely, it's nice to see females more get into the industry
Yes.
and have it as an option. right?
Correct. Diversity is always welcome.
Diversity is great. We always need more of that. Thank you so much for coming in today, Anand.
Thank
I
you,
appreciate it. Good to see you again. It's been a while.
You too. Thank you for having me.
Although your family and the pilot shop have a history of doing business, we continue to do so.
Yes.
And say hi to your mom for me.
I will. Thank you, Richard. It's been
Thank
an
you.
honor.
You have a great day and good luck with everything, and keep in touch, sir.
Thank you. Will do.
We have a really special event coming up shortly. It's going to be on Sunday, May 26th, and it's called the Women Take Flight. So the Brampton Flight Center is going to be offering free flights to women only that day. Sorry, guys, you're not in on this one. This is to promote aviation for women and hopefully bring more women pilots into the aviation industry, whether it be as airline pilots or just for recreation. You can go to our website, thebramptonflightcenter.com, for further information on the timing and what the program is going to entail that day. And I think it may already be sold out by the time this podcast goes up. You can certainly keep an eye out for the event. I'm sure if it's very successful, and I'm sure it will be, that we'll probably run one again. And we'd like to offer our congratulations and thanks to everybody who coordinated to put the Wings Banquet together this year for the graduates. I hear they're going to have some pictures up on the website very soon, and we look forward to seeing those. And just a reminder, if you happen to be at the airport or plan on coming out to the airport, you should try to visit the Great War Flying Museum. Their current timings are Victoria Day weekend to Labor Day weekend, Tuesday to Thursday from 11 to 3 p.m., and on Saturday and Sundays and other holidays, 11 to 4 p.m. It's a great place to visit and all kinds of wonderful people there to help you through the museum and show you around. And now let's look into a little bit of Canadian aviation news. Back in April, Nav Canada, the nation's air navigation service provider, celebrated its 85th anniversary of Canada's first air traffic control tower, which opened on April 13th, 1939 at Saint-Hubert, Quebec Airport. It was a simple structure, only a few radios and light projectors, initially served as part of a military training facility during the Second World War, and marked the start of air traffic control in Canada. Chartwright has expanded its lease program to include mid-size and super mid-size jets. Chartwright Air Group, a provider of private aviation services in Canada, has announced the expansion of its successful aircraft lease program to now include 7 to 10 passenger mid-size and super mid-size jets. The expansion is driven by growth and customer feedback, strategically targeting key markets between charter and clients and aircraft owners. In our next segment, we're joined by Amira Khalifa. Amira is an IATPL student here at the Brampton Flight Center, and she's going to come in and tell her story about how she came to be here training with us. It's been an interesting path for Amira to become a pilot, and I think you'll all enjoy her story. Hello, Amira, and welcome to the Airshow podcast for May. So, Amira, you've had an interesting journey to get here. You had a position with another company before you were making the decision to come and be a pilot. So tell us about that and what changed your mind and suddenly brought you here to the Brampton Flight Center.
So I was working as an associate advisor in wealth management. I had built up my career there over the course of 12 years. I was very fortunate. I worked on a very large team, lots of experience, great opportunities to learn. I had forged really good relationships with the clients that I covered. So really it was a I would say, a successful career. I was well established, and I could have continued on till my pension retirement, which would have been the age of 57 for me. And I just, one of the big things that motivated me to do well in my career was that I enjoyed traveling.
Right.
So I was trying to travel while I was working. My job itself didn't involve any traveling, but when I take my vacation, I'd travel a lot of times to go back to Egypt to visit family. But I also went to Thailand and Spain and the UK and a few other places. And I realized I really enjoy that. But just the nature of my job never allowed me to fully enjoy it because I was always thinking about my job. So
Right.
before I was, going on my vacation, I was working late to prepare for that. And then during my vacation, I was checking my emails, and then I come back and, I got to catch up on everything that I missed. So as much as I was enjoying the traveling, I couldn't fully enjoy it because I couldn't completely disconnect.
Right.
So I realized I like traveling. I don't like that type of corporate lifestyle. So that was one thing that kind of made me think about making a change. And then just small things here and there. One of my friends had posted going on a city tour with his friend, and I was like, "That's so
okay.
cool. Why am I not doing that?"
Right.
My uncle's also a pilot, so
is he?
that
Okay.
was, that was always there in the background. And
And here you are.
yeah, exactly. All these little things until one day I was like, "This is it. I got to make
Yeah,
the
because you
make
must
the
have
move."
thought, well, did you ever think of it as a big risk that you were going to take
Yeah.
to flip from A to B?
Most definitely.
Yeah,
Most
so-
definitely. It was definitely a risk. I was already established in a career. I had good financial security in that job,
Right.
job security in that job. And here I was going to go to something completely different
Yeah,
in my
it's
30s.
Definitely a 180.
So here I am, in starting off in my 30s when a lot of people start in their early 20s, this
That's right,
career,
yeah.
in an industry that I have zero experience in. It's not like I even had a corporate job in an aviation. No, it
Right,
was
that's true.
completely
yeah.
different.
Banking is definitely a different
Yeah.
profession altogether.
Yeah, so that was definitely, the risk was definitely there, but I felt like I was taking a calculated risk. I had a job that I could fall back on, like go back to my
Right.
career if this didn't
If
work
it
out.
doesn't work out. Yeah.
And, if worst case, I could transition into the aviation corporate world if I couldn't be a pilot, if I couldn't continue down that path. So
Yeah. So what was the final trigger that you just one day said, I'm going to do it?
I would say, I applied for the program. I applied for the program on the last day of applications that year. It
okay.
was
That's
March
the
15th.
IATPL?
Yes,
Yeah.
it was March 15th, 2023. But I would say October prior to that, just a few months before, I went on a trip. I went to Egypt for my cousin's wedding. I went to Dubai, just for some fun. And I came back and I just had a terrible, terrible week at work. Like
Right.
it was, I'd come back on such a high because I'd had such a wonderful trip. And then I came back to just a terrible week at work, stuff not going the way it's supposed to, and, some office politics and
Right.
whatnot. And I just said, I now need another vacation. Like I just came back from
Just came back,
vacation
yeah.
and I'm a week into work and I need another vacation. I can't keep going like this.
Right.
But then, it was the end of the year. I got to pick myself back up, focus again on work. It gets really busy at that time. January and February is also pretty busy in that industry. And I was especially busy because I was having surgery in February and I was trying to prepare for the time that I was going to be off. I was off for about 3 weeks from work. So I was preparing for that. And then I had my surgery. I was, out of commission. And as I was recovering from my surgery, I'm like, I'm going to go back to this. And I don't want to. So the week before started, as I'm still recovering from
Right,
surgery,
yeah.
putting together my application from the website and going through all of that. And I submitted it on the last day, on March 15th.
On the last day
Yeah.
of availability.
Yeah.
Wow. That's really cutting it to the last
Yeah.
second. And I guess as you were laying home trying to rest from your surgery, you just said, "Yeah, I'm done."
Yeah, that was exactly it. I just
Yeah.
felt I can't go back to this.
So, how did you get to choose Brampton as your training provider? There's a lot of different schools out there. What was it about us that you thought was a better fit for you?
I think the first thing was when I started doing my research, I had absolutely no idea how do you become a pilot, what's the path
Right.
and whatnot. But as I started doing my research, I started seeing, oh, there's the ATPL program, and it's not offered at all the schools.
Right.
There's only a few schools that have them. So that was my first filter was, okay, I want to be in a program because I want to this is the career I want, and I want to get on a path and the most direct path. Because again, I'm starting this a little bit later. I'm going back to school after not being in school for a long
Right,
time, so
yes.
I want that structure.
Even that must be a challenge when you've
Absolutely.
been out for a while. Suddenly, you have to sit down and study all
Absolutely,
the time. Yeah.
definitely. So the first thing was a program, and then the second thing was Brampton is the closest school to me. I live in Etobicoke,
Oh, okay.
and it's the closest school. And I said, I'm already making such a big change in my life, going from being an employee to
Right.
being a student, having a paycheck versus paying tuition. And I said, it's such a big change in my life that I want to try to minimize the change. So I don't want to have to move somewhere else. And I don't want to have a daily, 2-hour commute or whatnot. So
Exactly,
Brampton was
yeah.
the closest.
So we won by being on the map and having the best program. I
Yeah,
have to say,
exactly.
as well. So where are you right now in terms of your training? You've been in the program for how long now?
Since July
Since July,
2023.
so coming
Yeah.
up on just under a year.
Yeah.
Where exactly are you in terms of your training at the moment?
So right now I'm working towards my CPL flight test. That's my next big
That's the
milestone.
big
That's in
milestone.
terms of flying. So in the air, it's prepping for CPL flight test, and on the ground, we've started IFR ground school, which
Right, so you've
which
done
has
the
been really
IFR.
interesting. So
For sure. What is it you like about our program? You've obviously been through, almost a year of it. Is there things that stand out to you as being really big pluses in the program?
I would say the fact that there's structure to the program. You start off in the summer with PPL ground school, trying to work towards your first solo. You get past that, okay, let's try to get you to the PA on your own, and then you're preparing for your
Right.
flight test. So there's always this structure. There's always these milestones that you're trying to reach, which I think is really good in especially when you come in without an aviation background. So you really need that structure to hold your hand and get you through, okay,
Yeah,
this
it
is the
gives you
first step,
purpose, right?
this is the next step,
Yeah.
this is what you move on to.
As you're going through it,
Exactly.
you need to have that structure. There are some people, like we have our self-paced programs,
Yep.
obviously, as well, and some people operate well under that. I don't know about you, but I'm the kind of person who needs structure
Yeah.
when I do things.
Yeah.
If I'm left to my own devices, then it's like, yeah, that's good. I should study that. No, you think I'm going to go fly my RC plane?
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly.
Or
Exactly.
watch Netflix or
Yeah.
something like
No,
that.
the structure is definitely very good. The other thing that comes with the structure is the class.
Yes.
My classmates, honestly, I don't think I would have been able to do it without them. Everybody is so supportive of each other. We're all trying to help each other. We
That's
all
definitely a
feel what
plus.
everybody's going through.
Yes.
And so we're just there to support each other. One day there's a couple of us that, I'm so worried about this. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And then the others are like, no, you got this. You'll be fine. I did this last week, or I did this. You'll be fine. And so it's just that constant support, I think,
It's there
makes a
all the time,
huge difference. And I mean, obviously Brampton does a good job of selection, because everybody in the class is just
Very
wonderful.
serious about
Everybody,
it.
yeah, everybody gets along. Everybody's taking it seriously, and everybody's just lovely to be around. There's nobody that, you come in and you think, I don't want to see this person. No, it's all good.
So when you got into this, I mean, obviously you've done your research, but you probably were well aware that women in aviation is not the norm. That it's an industry that's very much dominated by males.
Yes.
Did you have an apprehension about that situation when it comes to you're completing your program? You've got your qualifications now after you've done the program. Now you have to go hunt for a job, right? Do you think that's being a female in any way is an impediment to getting a job in the airline industry?
I don't think being a female is an impediment to getting a job in the airline industry. I would say we're at a time right now where airlines want the representation and the diversity. So I would say it's probably a plus. What I see as an impediment, and it's just kind of this cycle, the impediment is getting in. Making that decision, because I've always, since I was young, I go on airplanes, travel internationally and whatnot. I sit in airports, I see pilots coming and going, I go on the airplane. I've never seen a female pilot in the flesh in my life until my orientation in May 2023, when we had one of the pilots from AeroCourse come in. I've never seen a female. So representation is one thing. And then I think also just the general societal thinking around, oh, well, what's your lifestyle going to be like? And what if you have kids and whatnot? And I can tell you from my, 9-to-5 job, which is never 9 to 5.
Right.
I used to feel bad for those moms that would have to drop off their kids at 7 a.m. So, to daycare or preschool or something before school starts. Take a GO train for an hour, run downtown, then run after school to go pick up their kids.
Yeah, a few young women who are in the industry actually have told me that. That are pilots flying for airlines, that actually managing the schedule is not as difficult as they thought it was going to be. And they also have a very supportive partner, right? Which is also very important that you have, whether you're male or female pilot, because there are times when you're obviously going to be away for quite a while. Sometimes I know there's one fellow I interviewed, 5 days in a row he's gone, and he has a young son, but his wife is very supportive. So it's great to have that support as well, if it's available to you. Not everybody obviously is in that situation to do that.
So I would say once you have the training, getting a job as a female, I don't think that's the issue. I think it's making that decision that, as a female, I can become a pilot. I can do this. That is, I think, where I see more of the issue.
So as a future pilot, obviously, what is the plan? Do you feel you want to go straight to airlines, other operations? There's cargo operations, there's private places like Orange Air. What's your plan when you're done here? Are you going to apply directly to Porter Jazz, those guys, through our programs? Or are you going to take a look at some of the other possibilities for being a pilot?
To be honest, I'm not going to close any doors. I'm going to apply anywhere and everywhere. So if there's direct entry opportunities to airlines, I'll apply to those, because I'm sure there's a lot of people applying. So, I mean, they still want experienced pilots, right? So they're only going to take a few of the newer graduates. So I'll still, put my name down for that. And if I'm lucky enough to get there, good. But if not, I'll still be happy getting experience in other opportunities.
So you're going to keep your options open.
Absolutely. So medevac would be very interesting, or going up north and getting that experience up there.
Orange is always hiring. They're actually come to the airport fairly frequently here.
I took a picture with their plane.
It was up here at their Pilatus, and they're buying 12 new Pilatuses actually to add to their fleet. They're very, very busy, and it's a great organization. We've had other people come out, fly with Cargo Jet, and since then moved on to Air Canada. But, again, the opportunities are there. You talk about going up north, which is not what it used to be like, in terms of you had to go up north, you had to build those hours, then you come back south, and then the airlines will take a look at you. That's no longer the situation. And every airline pilot I talk to tells me now, you really, you can do that if you want to. It's an option, but you don't have to go up there to -50 anymore and work for Buffalo Airlines. Sorry, Buffalo Jet, and freeze for little money and but you do build time. We did have a young lady actually go through here who worked for Buffalo Airways, the ice pilots.
I saw her at one of the
Did you
events
see
that,
her?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and she shared her story. It was very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, she was amazing. And one last question. Obviously, I'm not sure of your actual situation, but family support for doing this.
Hmm.
Did mom and dad look at you and say, "Are you out of your mind? You have a successful career. What are you thinking?"
Yeah,
Right? Why are you doing this now? I think family support, no matter whether it's your parents, husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever it happens to be, is always important when you make a major change in your life, especially at a little bit later in your life,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's again, it happens, but it's not the norm. So, did you get any backlash from family and say, Amira, no,
Yeah,
don't do it?
definitely that was the initial reaction.
Yeah.
Not because they don't want me to be a pilot, but that they didn't want me to give up my career that they had seen me 12 years, put my life into and get to
Yeah.
where I was. So they just felt like, why when you're doing so well, walk away from all of that, spend every single penny that you have and then some, and then there's no guarantee for a job. I mean, yes, the opportunities are out there, but there's absolutely no guarantee. So why would you do that? And I just said I'm not happy. I'm just unhappy with my life, and I've stepped outside of that rat race and
Right.
and took an external view at my life, and I'm not happy, and I need to make a decision about that, and this is what's going to make me happy. I like travel. I like that as a pilot. I'm going to go do my job, turn off the plane, leave, and check my schedule to know when I come back. Of course, in between your flights, you're always trying to learn, be up to date, whatnot. But that's in any career that you do.
Oh, absolutely.
You always want to be up to date. But just that separation, I think, between the job and life in aviation or in the flight deck. I like that. So I said, I've noticed all these things that align with what I want for my life. And I need to take that risk. And it's a calculated risk because as a backup, I still have my career.
Yes.
And even if I didn't go back to corporate banking, I could go into corporate aviation, something in the aviation industry, again, move myself closer.
Right.
But if I'm in my, 40s, 50s, and I look back and I say, I really should have applied. I really should have, no amount of money that I have saved up or things that I've done will make up for that regret.
Yeah, you don't want to have a regret for sure at
Exactly.
the end of it and say, hey, why didn't I do it?
Yeah.
Well, you have done it. I'm sure you have support of your family now.
Yes.
after-
Yeah. Now, once they saw I was serious about it and that I had thought it through, they became very, very supportive.
That's
So,
excellent to hear. Family support is really a critical thing in all
Yes.
of this throughout.
Indeed.
Because it's not an easy journey.
It's not.
It
It's
really
not.
isn't.
It's not.
For anybody who thinks becoming a pilot, by the way, is simple,
It's really
think
not.
again.
I know.
It's not. It's a lot of very hard work, a lot of study. But if you're serious and you're passionate about it, you will get through it for sure. Well, I want to thank you today for coming in, Amira. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. You have a great story, and I wish you every success in what you're doing here. And obviously, in the future, one of these days, I'm going to get on an airplane and hear Captain Amira.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure,
Thank
and
you
I
for
always
coming
enjoy
in.
speaking with you.
You
Thank
have
you.
a wonderful day.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You as well.
We have a really special event coming up shortly. It's going to be on Sunday, May 26th, and it's called the Women Take Flight. So the Brampton Flight Center is going to be offering free flights to women only that day. Sorry, guys, you're not in on this one. This is to promote aviation for women and hopefully bring more women pilots into the aviation industry, whether it be as airline pilots or just for recreation. You can go to our website, thebramptonflightcenter.com, for further information on the timing and what the program is going to entail that day. And I think it may already be sold out by the time this podcast goes up, but you can certainly keep an eye out for the event. I'm sure if it's very successful, and I'm sure it will be, that we'll probably run one again. And we'd like to offer our congratulations and thanks to everybody who coordinated to put the Wings Banquet together this year for the graduates. I hear they're going to have some pictures up on the website very soon, and we look forward to seeing those. And just a reminder, if you happen to be at the airport or plan on coming out to the airport, you should try to visit the Great War Flying Museum. Their current timings are Victoria Day weekend to Labor Day weekend, Tuesday to Thursday from 11 to 3 p.m., and on Saturday and Sundays and other holidays, 11 to 4 p.m. It's a great place to visit and all kinds of wonderful people there to help you through the museum and show you around. And the Brampton Flight Center Social Committee will be holding a trivia night on Thursday, May 23rd. That'll be taking place at our restaurant. The time will be 6 to 10 p.m., and they will get the trivia started, they say, around 7, and they'll be serving chili at this event, and that'll start at about 6 p.m. This trivia event will be all based, of course, on testing your knowledge on general aviation, club history, and women in aviation. So that will bring us to an end of the May Airshow podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you again next month on the Airshow podcast. And we hope you have a great rest of the month of May and hope you're able to get lots of flying in. Everyone take care and blue skies.
Attention passengers, we've now reached our destination. We hope you enjoyed the flight and have a nice day.